Good morning, my friends, and welcome to Your Valued CPA, our first official podcasting episode. So, today I want to discuss with you what business owners don't know when starting a business. And I love this topic because as a CPA, as a tax strategist, with my background in tax strategy, tax, accounting, just business life and entrepreneurship in general, this topic is so broad. And I look forward to expanding it and unpacking it and repacking it back up over the next several episodes. And I'd love to begin dabbling in this topic because you really don't know what you don't know. And that is one of my favorite phrases. I think starting a business is so exciting initially, and it continues to be for a really long time until you really start hitting some hurdles that you didn't expect to hit, or perhaps you thought, well, that's never going to happen to me, so I don't have to think about X, Y, and Z. So let's start today with what happens when you first start this business and some of the typical downfalls that I see that people and business owners and entrepreneurs have a very challenging time to either crossing over into, the greener pasture, if you will, or don't realize that it's happening to them, or maybe don't realize the repercussions or requirements of them as business owners now. Okay. So first things first, you get a great idea. You have this great idea and you're passionate about it. Every cell in your body is screaming that you have to have this new idea or invention or process or way of service or whatever it is. You want to birth it out into the world, into the universe. Get your magic out there and impact others and help them create a better life or sustain their life or improve something. So I'm sure all of us, especially if you're listening to this, you have gone through this process. You're either an enthusiast about a certain endeavor or creative about a certain project, or you're an incredible task master at a very specific craft or gift that you have. And I'll give this as an example. That was the way I started business. I knew I was great at math and accounting and tax, and I just wanted to help people. And I felt a strong passion and pull to talk about numbers because in my world, numbers don't lie, right? So, whatever that gift or whatever pulled you into business got you into business. Okay. And sometimes it's not the idea, or it's not the fact that you are a crafter or extraordinary in whatever skill you're really good at. Sometimes it's just the fact of, you know what, I'm tired of working for someone else. I'm tired of the rat race. I'm tired of constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again, where I don't feel like I'm in control of my life. And a lot of times that push kind of forces us into this entrepreneurial business world. And that's also interesting because it comes with its own baggage. I always butcher jokes, and you'll know this about me as you get to know me, but an employee leaves their 9 to 5, 40-hour per week job to become a business owner, to work 80 hours a week and not get paid anymore initially. And that's kind of the mindset that a lot of business owners have. And it's not good or bad. It kind of just is what it is, because you're in that process of creating something that you have not done before. And that could be a whole episode in itself in the future. So you have this idea. Maybe you haven't talked to a professional yet, or maybe you have, right? So you have this idea, and now you're going out there and you're saying, okay, I'm going to be a service provider, if you will, or I'm going to be selling this thing on the internet. What do I do first? So you Google or you research or you chat GPT or you do whatever you need to do to kind of learn about the next steps of how to set up a business and be a proper business owner. And one of the first things you come across is you have to set up your business name and your EIN with the IRS. And this is what I want to stay focused on through the remainder of this episode. And I encourage you to stay to the end because at the end, if you will, I'm going to share some of the things that are the most common mistakes that I have seen in my practice and in my career. And I don't want you to make those same mistakes ever, ever again. Because if you don't know what you don't know, you have no idea what to ask. And now you're going to know. So there is no excuse for you not to ask or take action. Okay, so that's my stance on this. You set up your business, you register it with a state. You either do it yourself or you hire a company as your registered agent to do it on your behalf. The process is fairly similar, so we're just going to stay on you're doing this yourself. You register with the state, you research your name, and you find that no one else is using your cutesy new unique name that you absolutely love. And you register it with the state, you pay your state annual fees or your state registration fees. And then the next step is that you register that business name with the IRS so you get an EIN number. And I'm going to spend a moment here. An EIN number allows you to say that the business is not operating as you. That business is operating by itself. It's separate from you. You are not your business, and your business is not you. So, what does that mean? It can get confusing, but essentially, this is what it means. The business gets its own EIN number, just like you individually have your own social security number. Okay, so that's the business's unique identifying number. The business's name is its legal name, just like your first, middle, initial, and last name is your legal name. Your legal name as an individual with your social security number identifies you as a human being, what rights you have, what you can't do, and your privileges. And the same thing with the business. The business EIN is its unique identifier with the business name. And because it's a separate entity, that dictates what the business can and can't do. And each business has its own unique responsibilities and privileges and deadlines and compliance. Okay. So having said that, now you have this idea, you have your business set up, and let's take this into two different directions. Number one, you didn't realize how much time you're going to have to spend in your business. You didn't realize how much energy it's going to take. You didn't realize that you need resources to run a business, whether it's time or money or other professionals or materials, whatever it is that you need. Now you actually know that just because you have a name and an EIN number, business doesn't just magically fall on your doorstep. Now you have to figure out how to get that name out there. And let's say you went through the process and at the end of the day, you had no business and you had zero activity. Maybe you opened up a business bank account, or maybe you haven't yet. And at the end of the year, during the next tax filing season or the first filing season for this business, you don't report any of your business activity or your business name or anything of that nature to your tax preparer because in your mind, you've done no business, you've collected no money, and you're thinking it's a wash and there's no activity, so you should not report anything to the IRS. This is error number one. When you have a business and you register it with the IRS, you are required to file a tax return unless you're a disregarded entity, and that will be a different episode for another day. So when you file with the IRS for an EIN number, if you're filing as a single member, you're automatically going to be categorized as a disregarded entity unless you're a corporation, during which time you'll be required to file a C Corp tax return. If you're a multi-member in a multi-member LLC, you're automatically going to be defaulted to file Form 1065, which is a partnership return, unless once again you're a C Corp and then you file C Corp taxes. So there's going to be lots of questions about that, and I'll dedicate a whole episode to that structure. But knowing that, let's assume you know what that means. In any case, unless you're a disregarded entity, even if you had zero activity, you must file a tax return with the IRS, even if it's a zero tax return. No activity, no expenses, no assets, no liabilities, no income. You still have to file a zero return because you applied for that EIN number and now you are established as a separate entity outside of yourself. So you're required to file these forms, even if there's no activity. So I'm going to pause right there for a second. When you're looking at business expenses, you will find that the state incorporation fee and the tax filing fee are your expenses hands down initially when you start the business. So I want you to be aware of that because there are certain thresholds or little bumps in the road that you may trip over, and the fees are one of them. Okay, so let's say next, business didn't go very well, and you still think you had zero activity in the business, even though you made no income, but you made a lot of effort to be able to get that business name out there and maybe try to advertise and get some business coming in. The second mistake I see people make is they assume that they can't file a tax return or they don't want to file a tax return because they earned no income. And this is also false. So what I would like you to take away from here is when you operate a business, even though you don't make income, now there's going to be some caveats, of course, with hobby loss rules eventually, but let's assume this is year 1 and year 2. You're still not making any income, but you're putting in a lot of effort to get your name out there and advertise and sustain new business. When that happens, you're actually paying out monies. You have expenses. The business is incurring expenses, maybe contractors to design your logos, maybe advertising fees because you're getting your name out there, social marketing, networking. Maybe you joined a networking organization or you're traveling to different networking organizations and business groups to be able to generate business. Guess what, my friends? All that is an expense that you may be able to deduct on your tax return. And I'm not saying, if you notice my words, I did not say you can deduct. I'm saying you may deduct. Because at the end of the day, what's allowable to be deducted are what is necessary, ordinary, customary, and reasonable to be able to generate your business and operate your business. So in the case where you have all these expenses but no income, that's the year when you file your tax return for your business, you're going to have a loss. And that loss gets to be reported and carried forward onto your personal tax return, depending on your tax structure and tax type. So it's super, super, super important to do that. Okay. The other thing that I see when people start a business is when they start it, they get all excited and they forget to open up the business bank account. That's a huge no-no. Okay, follow my train of thought here. You get your business, you get your EIN, you get your business name, you go to the bank. And if you haven't done this already, please make sure you do. You go to the bank, get your state incorporation documents, get your operating agreement, get your EIN from the IRS, and you must open up a bank account in the business name, in that EIN number with your business name. What that does is that begins the process of separating you personally from your business. The number one thing that I see business owners do in that first year when they're operating the business is they're commingling expenses. And that is a huge no no. You do not want to do that because what that does is that tells the IRS that you are not willing to, or you don't want to, or you have no regard to follow the rules that they have set up for you for the privilege of owning a business. So keep in mind, there's responsibilities of a business owner, like you have to be compliant with all the tax filing deadline, but there's also a privilege of you being able to deduct certain expenses and conduct yourself as a business. And as a business, we're assuming that you're removing liability from you personally and placing it on the business because you are operating separately. Remember from one of the first comments that I made, it's a separate EIN, it's a separate business name. It's like having a separate identity, meaning it's not your social, it's not your personal name. So now you are separate. You are completely separate entities. And I can't emphasize this enough because a lot of individuals or business owners think that they're separate, but they're commingling things. And the IRS says that is a big no no. If you commingle, you're actually saying you're not willing to go through the process and jump through the hoops to make yourself separate from your business. So think about it from that regard. In that regard, you want to create that bank account so that you don't charge your personal and business expenses on the same checking account nor the same credit card. When you take that additional step, of course, it takes a little bit more time to do your accounting and sorting things through. That also shows that you are willing to take the steps and do the due diligence so that you continue being a separate entity. And this is so vital and crucial because these little things that seem like they don't matter, they matter quite a bit to the IRS. So my goal here is to make sure you are equipped with the knowledge so that you know what to do before you get into trouble or you trip over your own feet trying to run this business and give birth to this extraordinary idea that you have. I'd rather you focus on that than get caught up in all this minutia. So it's always important to talk to other professionals. Another thing that I see when business owners start their businesses is that they think their idea is so special and so spectacular that they end up recreating the wheel. And what they don't realize is that maybe their idea is completely unique and maybe they have this unique process or maybe a really neat way to look at the world or maybe a new service that hasn't been discovered before. And that is unique to the individual starting the business. However, business is business. At the end of the day, businesses operate under business rules. And you can insert an idea or a product or a service, and businesses are going to operate the same. They may have some tweaks depending on what industry you're in, but running a business is not a unique idea. It's been done before. We should lean on the experts that have done a great job, glean some insights, and apply it to our business stage, whatever stage you're in. Keep in mind, if you're just starting out with an idea, you're not going to apply the exact same things that maybe someone that's been in business for the last 20 years. You may apply their knowledge and see how far they've gone and what you have to do to be able to get there. But you need to understand where your business is. And certain things in the infancy of the business, in your startup, in your new business idea, in your new business venture, are going to be completely different from a very mature business or a business that's looking to exit. And we can have a whole episode on that as well, or two, if you will. So don't get caught up in not knowing what you don't know. Don't get caught up in trying to extend yourself so far where you feel like you have to recreate the wheel. And now you're wasting your own time and your own money and your own resources, where in reality, you could have applied a business process or business steps that have worked in the past and then tweak it to your own liking. And that's probably the best advice that I can give you at the moment, because if you're reinventing the wheel, you're just wasting your time. Unless you're in a very specific business where you have to recreate the wheel for a specific process, or um, something that you're uniquely going to trademark or something of that nature. But follow the guidelines, because it's going to shorten your path and it's going to minimize um, your errors. It's going to minimize frustration, and it's going to accelerate the way and how and when how you actually maneuver your business to get to that next level. Okay, the other thing that I have noticed when businesses start their business is that they focus their attention initially on things that absolutely don't matter. The number one thing that matters as soon as you open up your business is to get a client, get revenue. Once you get revenue, then you can start incorporating ideas or things that you want to do. So, everything that you want to accomplish in your business, make sure you have a list, but make sure at the same time you're generating revenue, because you may think you have the best idea in your business, but if no one wants to buy it, no one wants your service, no one wants your product, you don't have anything. And I don't want you to be there. And I've seen that too frequently with business owners, where they think they're recreating the wheel because they are very unique. However, there's no market for their product or for their service. And that is a really tough place to be in. Okay. So when you're creating your business, one of the things that I fell into when I first started out was focusing on marketing deliverables. So I'm a service business, right? And when I first started, I was so excited about creating my logos and my branding and my business cards and all that required time and money. And one of my trusted advisors at that point in time said to me, Marta, why are you focusing on something that's not bringing you money? You're not going to get a client because you have a business card. You're going to get a client because you're physically going up to them and speaking to them and providing them value. Don't worry about things that don't make a difference. It'll be cool, it'll be fun, it'll be exciting to get that established later on once you have some monies coming in from clients, but don't focus your attention there. Okay, so I took that advice and I went out and got some clients, because I really spent a few months just figuring out what the best placement of my picture will be on my business card. And guess what? My business card didn't get me any clients. Me going out there and meeting people got me clients. And it might be different from you or for you, but I want to share with you what didn't work for me so that you know that you can anticipate that potentially happening. Remember, you don't know what you don't know, and now you know, so there's now no excuse for you to not know. All right. Okay. And spending my time and resources generating revenue flipped my mind into understanding that a business is all about clients and all about the service, all about the product, and you don't have a business without revenues coming in. I'm not saying that you may not have months or weeks or quarters where you don't have any clients. You might come across that. And I encourage you very quickly to pivot from whatever mindset you have to be able to generate new clients. Because at the end of the day, clients are relationships. Clients want that service, that one-on-one or that personalized email or meeting you in person or getting a solution provided to them if you're an e-commerce business or something of that nature. But at the end of the day, provide them with the solution now, sooner than later, and you can tweak your design and your personal branding and your personal marketing down the road. Well, I really hope that this helped. I can't wait to share some more insights. And right now, this was what business owners don't know when starting a business. And I think these insights, as long as you apply them, hopefully they brought you some some value. Hopefully it motivated you and hopefully it guided you away from certain things or areas or thought processes that can get you in trouble down the road. So the more you know initially, the more equipped you're going to have to be sustainable in in your business and the more equipped you'll have to be absolutely successful. I hope this helped and I look forward to chatting with you during the next episode. Bye.